It's hard to believe that sometimes, even the most routine things pose some kind of danger. Leaving a child at home for a few minutes while you pop down to the shop and ride home from work at night, etc. Tonight's stories will remind you that danger is around every corner, and that even the most mundane tasks don't go unnoticed by those with ill intentions. I used to do some urban exploring. This particular incident takes place in an abandoned factory with a friend in a rougher part of Melbourne, Australia. As we explored most of the building, I couldn't shake the feeling like we were being watched, although we hadn't bumped into anybody. I've occasionally bumped into other explorers before. As we were about to leave, we heard a loud clang hitting the concrete from somewhere behind us, and the sounds of footsteps taking off deeper into the building towards a distant exit. Since the footsteps had moved away, and I was with my friend, I hurried over to see what caused the ruckus. I discovered a rusty crowbar laying on the floor, which I hadn't seen when we had been in that area earlier. We were being followed. My guess is, someone was planning on robbing us or attacking us, but had mistakenly dropped the crowbar and they took off. It was obvious. They were waiting for the perfect opportunity to ambush us. Of course, we got the heck out of there, convinced that whoever had just bolted might be trying to get more people to go wait at the exits for us to come out. I was 10 at the time and lived in a secluded suburb up in the hills of a west coast city in Australia. It was midnight and I was home alone. No pets. Mum's out of state visiting family on the east coast, so I've locked all the doors except the back deck door. The deck overlooked a steep hill, so there's no way anyone could have come inside. I was watching TV all night, sitting on the couch downstairs in the dark. Electricity is expensive in Australia. My phone alarm went off, so I went upstairs to go sort that out. I also used the lavatories while I was up there, so by the time I walked downstairs, I was freaking out when I saw lights were on and the kitchen cabinets were open. I thought my mum was home, so I went to the garage, but her car wasn't there. I tried calling her, but she didn't answer. I walked around the corner to see if the front door was open, and it was. I was spooked out, but then the garage door started opening. No car came, and I waited for a little to see, but no one came. I watched out the window like a hawk until I saw a figure slowly moving in the shadows of the driveway. I jumped in my seat from fear and sprinted upstairs to my mum's room. I tried mum again, but still no response, so I called the police. They came out in about 30 minutes or so and checked the place out. The police tried getting through to my mum again, but this time managed to do so. The police handed me the phone and I spoke to my mum. She told me that my uncle was coming to get me, although I knew for a fact that he was over an hour away, and he started work early in the mornings, which is why I didn't stay with him initially. She told me to pack some clothes and that she's coming home as soon as she can. Now I've only found out recently what really happened that night, so here goes. The police saw clues my 10-year-old self didn't notice or puzzle together. Someone had come into the house through the back and let another person through the front door. They went through the house while I was upstairs, hence the cabinets open and lights on in the kitchen. When I came back downstairs, one of the two people had left through the garage. The other one was in the house the entire time, watching me from a dark corner. The scariest part is, the man didn't leave when I ran upstairs to my mum's bedroom. The police found a knife in the hall, upstairs, which means he only left when police arrived. In my old job, I used to cycle home from work along some back roads just before midnight. There were no streetlights along those roads as is common in Australia, and I hated cycling on the main road because I was anxious about being in the way of traffic. I had an LED light on the front of my bike to help me see though. On this particular night, I was on my way back home from work, and after turning a corner, my light shone on someone who was sitting with their legs crossed in the middle of the road. The guy was just sitting there in complete silence and darkness alone. I smashed the brakes and stopped in front of him and asked him if he was alright. He just looked at me and told me where he was trying to get to. I knew that location and I knew it was about 20 k's or so from where we were, so I told him that. He said he knew and that he was waiting on someone to pick him up. When he said that, he got up and walked off into one of the nearby fields without saying anything. About a week later, I bumped into the same person in the same spot. After I stopped for the second time, he said he found who he was looking for. I rode off, feeling like I was lucky to get out of there. Not long after this incident, I saw this man's face in one of the local newspapers. He'd been arrested for kidnapping, sexual assault, and attempted murder of his former lover who drove by that way each night. I got a call from an unknown number. Because my mum's number is private, I assumed it was her calling me, so I always answer these calls. For reference, I live at home with my parents while I study at uni, so when I answered the phone to find out it was a strange man who knew not just my name, but where I lived, I started to freak the F out. This guy knew I was home alone at that particular moment and told me that he was going to come to my house and kill me. He went into graphic detail about how he would do it for probably what seemed like 5 minutes. The reason the call lasted so long is because I was in a mixture of shock and trying to work out which one of my friends was going to get a beating, listening out for any signs of familiar voices in the background or something, but there weren't any. So that's when I hung up the phone. The unknown number called again, but this time I didn't answer. However, he did leave a voicemail, this time more irate that I hung up on him, and that he was going to ensure my death was slow and painful for cutting him off. I called the police and went down to the station, giving them the voicemail. After investigating it, they said it was likely a prank as they get a surprising number of these reports, but it's left me with a lot of unanswered questions. How did he know my name? How did he know where I lived? How did he know that I was alone at that particular time? When I was in high school, I was home alone while my mum went out to pick up my brother. Now we had 2 beagles, one that was friendly but barked loud, and an older one that we had gotten from the shelter, who was extremely protective and wasn't afraid to show his teeth. I was in the back part of our house on my computer when I heard a knock at the front door. I walked into our front room and saw a young guy through the window. I stood slightly out of sight and saw him poaching around, looking through the window beside the door, then walk back to the door and knock again. After receiving no response, the door handle started to rattle. Then he tried knocking on the door one more time. My blood went cold and I rushed to the back door, quietly yelling for the dogs to come back inside. They ran in and I herded them to the front door. Meanwhile, the guy tried the handle again and again, but this time my older beagle got on the defensive and growled while the other one barked his head off. I got my phone and rang my mum, telling her what's going on. She rushed back with my brother, but by the time they got back home, the guy had already taken off. They looked around and saw no other signs of entry. Either that guy was checking to see if our house was empty to break into it, or he knew that I was home alone after seeing my mum leave. That brings us to the end of the video. Let me know what you thought in the comments below, and what sort of stories you'd like to hear next. Guys, thanks so much for watching the video. I appreciate everyone who subscribed to the channel recently, all the kind comments that you guys leave on all the videos, and all the likes that I get. You sharing the videos on social media and recommending me to your friends and family, I appreciate it so much. And I'll be releasing more content in the coming weeks. It's just been really hectic with what's going on over in my life, and I hope to get to a more consistent schedule soon. However, it is a bit harder to get stories together lately just because of everything that's going around, plus the editing and recording, finding the time to do so. But I'm hoping to get a bunch done in the coming weeks, so that way I can upload it on a schedule for you guys. But yeah, let me know if there's anything in particular you guys want to hear, or types of stories you have, or if there's any you have yourself, shoot them through my way. I'm happy to record them, because your own true experiences are the best. So send them through to the email addresses below. Follow me on the social media links below, and I'll see you in the next one.